ANC Chairperson of the International Relations Subcommittee, Nomvula Mokonyane, says the ANC will not abandon its support for the people of Palestine. The country has come under pressure to abandon its case at the International Court of Justice, including the case at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. The other thorny issue is the frosty relationship with Washington. Nomvula Mokonyane spoke to SABC News international editor Sophie Mokoena on these issues, including the conflict in the DRC.
The ANC deliberated, and one of the key things that the ANC reaffirmed was our policy stance in terms of foreign relations and as well as cooperation. Secondly, the National Executive Committee also appreciated that we operating in an environment that is shifting because of many international dynamics. What we saw between Ukraine and Russia, the genocide in Palestine, the new administration in the United States of America, the conflicts here in Africa, the Eastern DRC situation, the issues related to Sudan, what happened in Mozambique and the interventions that were made, as well as looking at how then do we best position the ANC and South Africa, given many other multilateral platforms that we're involved in, such as the coming G20 summit that looks at solidarity as one of the key elements of the theme, the issues around unity, the issues around prosperity and inclusive growth.
The DA, a member of the GNU, is saying that they would like to see a situation where the foreign policy, there's discussions around that. You were part of the team that negotiated in terms of ensuring that there's this government of national unity from the ANC side, and you are better placed in terms of the statement of intent. What did you agree on the foreign policy?
We agreed on all the 8 principles that constitute an agreement between the African National Congress and each and every party, including the DA. There were 3 areas that we then said they remain the non-negotiables. One is the Constitution, it's the rule of law, as well as foreign policy. Should there be a need to engage, there are parliamentary processes that are there, because our laws in South Africa are laws that come through public participation and consultation. It can't now be an issue between the ANC and the Democratic Alliance. It has to be a South African matter. And in that instance, they understand exactly what needs to happen. The GNU cannot actually replace the Constitution.
On the issue of the United States of America, the issue here, one, when you look at what's happening and the hostility, it can't just be what AfriForum is talking about in solidarity. The issue of South Africa's position on the Middle East question, we are informed that the U.S. would want a situation where South Africa review its position on the issue of ICC, the International Criminal Court, and the International Court of Justice as it relates to Israel.
It would be good that the United States of America approaches the South African government appropriately, should that be the issue, and not this disinformation that they are now using to actually accuse South Africa, as well as targeting African National Congress leaders. This is but one of the things that the NEC has supported government and believe that just like it happened with us, we have an obligation to stand for humanity, to make sure that the process that we have started proceeds and reaches its finality now that it is in the highest courts of the world. And therefore, it can't be something that we'll have to negotiate. we can't negotiate on this particular matter. We can't trade on the issue that is a crime against humanity. Nations didn't trade when they took a stance supporting us as South Africans. And up until that is brought before us, maybe it will be easier if it is presented formally so that we can sensitize the United States of America why we believe that we have to continue in this particular fashion. Because what then will continue becoming a problem is when we all speak across each other and not speaking to each other.
When the ANC was in exile during the apartheid, in terms of international mobilization, ANC did engage with the Democrats, the Republicans, the Black Caucus in the Congress. Why is the ANC not reaching out to those former friends of the ANC?
Just a few months ago, when there was the United Nations General Assembly, we met with our sisters and friends in the United States of America. I was also there. We continue to interact with them in the Congress, in the Black Caucus, those that were in the civil movement there in the United States of America, as well as other ordinary South Africans and Americans who are also quite open to get information. So we are continuing to do that work. In fact, the NEC has said we should continue with that work beyond just relying on government. And it is work that is continuing, and we are quite happy. We believe that now that we have this first ordinary National Executive Committee meeting of the ANC that dedicated a day on reflections around issues around geopolitics, we are now even much more strengthened, and we've got a mandate to boldly go out there and talk to the world and present our case and deal with issues of disinformation and mismanagement of information, including what South Africa stands for. We stand for all people of South Africa. We believe in a non-racial South Africa. We believe that there has to be transformational laws that must make sure that indeed South Africa belongs to all those who live in it.
Are we likely going to see you leading a delegation from the ANC, engaging stakeholders in the US, not necessarily being part of government, but the ANC, as the former president of the ANC has indicated that there was a relationship with the Americans during exile years? Are we likely to see ANC also embarking on such a campaign?
It will be very important that you follow us, because I think the last time we were there, everybody was occupied with following government. Yes, we'll continue to do that. Already there has been work done by a collective led by myself and a collective led by the Treasurer General of the African National Congress. So we continue to do that work. It might have not reached the headlines and stuff, but even on using the online communication and so forth, as well as our members who are based in the United States of America and briefing various other organizations, we are continuing to do that. The other thing that we are also going to see is not only us talking to the Americans, is to take South Africans along.
The issue of the ambassador, clearly it's the president's prerogative to appoint a diplomat. But as ANC, what transpired a few weeks ago in relation to Ambassador Rasool, did you discuss that, and what's the way forward, much as it's the president's prerogative?
Well, we reflected on it. It was unfortunate that there was not even a demarche of calling a former Ambassador Rasool and engaging with him. We actually accommodated the American ambassador here when he went around talking about issues that were not there, that he could not actually provide evidence on. He was demarched by our own Minister of International Relations. So the NEC actually said it was an unfortunate act, and we must respect the decision of the Americans. And now that he's here at home, we need to work on the way forward.
Is the president now working on appointing a new ambassador? Did he take the NEC into confidence?
The president is seized with this particular matter. It is one of the many other things that he has actually briefed the national leadership of the African National Congress about, and we support his approach that there shouldn't be a knee-jerk reaction. There must be a proper reflection. Just as the Americans do not have their own ambassador here in our own country, allow the president and the South African government to reflect and find a capable South African who will be able to go and represent the president as head of state in the United States of America and become a representative of the people of South Africa.
On the other issue, the Iran question, you had a meeting with the Iran representative, and there was a concern when people saw those visuals. On other regions and other friends of the ANC, did you look at where you stand in terms of such criticism? Did you look into the relationship with Asian countries, Europe and all of that, and what did you agree on?
We have reflected on everything, including different regions and different platforms where we have friends and we have those who stand with us, including Latin America, the relationships in Europe, the Scandinavian countries, in Africa, here in SADC, in the continent. We have looked at all that. And we can't demonize Iran because other people have got issues with them. We are a sovereign state. We have a relationship. Of course, we know positions that have been taken against Iran. They're not positions that have been taken by the United Nations, for example. These are decisions of, these are unilateral decisions, and these are decisions that, again, demonstrate what we want to deal with as the African National Congress, that there can't be a superpower that wants to assume authority over every nation state. And therefore, we don't see anything wrong. We are quite concerned about the 65 years of the Cuban blockade. We are also concerned about the situation of Western Sahara. We are concerned about the Palestinian situation where even when there is ceasefire, women and children, men continue to be maimed and killed. Even humanitarian aid is not coming through. Of course, there are issues that we ourselves, when we meet with our sister parties, Iranians and everybody, including Palestinians, we talk frankly with them on issues that are of concern to us, and they raise their own issues. So in these relationships, it does not mean we're 100% in support of everything that happens in those countries. But what we refuse is that we must now be forced to take a stance because somebody somewhere in the United States of America has a dim view against those people. Thousands and thousands of organizations and millions of people took a stand in our support, in solidarity with us, and therefore South Africans must also appreciate that even the Iranians themselves, they were there with us when we had to even influence the United Nations that apartheid was a crime against humanity. There are those platforms in the event where there's a perception or there's a real abuse of human rights or violation. Let's use those platforms rather than doing what now everybody is saying, are you not scared of America? America is not a monster. We must continue to manage our relationship with the Americans. We must continue to communicate with them. And if it is within their own laws that they relate with South Africa in this particular way, so be it. But we are in full support of a situation where we are also respected as a sovereign state.
Let's turn to Africa. The situation in the DRC, quite a difficult one, and it's so difficult to get all stakeholders on the table. The president, what is the president's view? Is there a way forward?
There is a way forward. You'll remember that just a week ago, there was a summit again that then also agreed on the appointment of facilitators that include Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe. And this is what we welcome, because in any conflict, there must be an attempt to bring all the parties together and ensure that there's negotiation, there's dialogue. There's a lot of work that has been done by us, the ANC, done by South Africans over years on the situation in the DRC. And the most important thing that has to happen is that the DRC itself must come together and look at how it establishes institutions that must govern the DRC, but also there must also be a true reflection about the role of others who have actually taken advantage of aspects of tribalism or ethnicity in that area, because the use just of a military intervention does not bear an everlasting solution. It's only negotiations, and where people agree and are held accountable on adherence to the decisions that have been arrived at. And I think one of the things that has been a setback is that every time when decisions have been agreed upon, there's no accountability and there's no monitoring. And we do hope that the facilitators this time, because part of their terms of reference is about monitoring, so that then there is aftercare once a decision has been taken. Because we've been to Sun City, we've been everywhere. We have participated as women of South Africa with the women of DRC and Rwanda, Burundi, in all these conflicts. It can't always be a situation that it's 3 steps forward and 7 steps backward. We must, in line with the Africa Agenda 2063, be much more committed in terms of institutionalizing democracy, institutionalizing dialogue in Africa, as compared to the use of arms and undermining of sovereignty of any nation, as well as attempts by external forces to exploit conflicts for them to benefit out of the rich minerals of this continent, whilst thousands of Africans live in abject poverty.